How's it going, everybody? You are listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. I'm Mo, joined by my co-host, Glenn. The boys, Wole and George, are not here tonight, but we got a fun-filled show to discuss all things Commanders off-season tonight. Make sure y'all subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms such as just search All Burgundy and Gold everything. Also tweet us at ABG underscore everything and hit us up on IG and TikTok at ABG underscore everything. Make sure you guys also subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold everything YouTube channel as well. If you're feeling generous, hit us up with a super chat on YouTube, and we'll definitely prioritize your comment. We're also streaming live tonight on the Urban Sports Scene X account.
Yo, what's up, man? It's time for the pregame. This is what we have on tap tonight. The Washington Commanders have been making some moves and making some waves in free agency, and we're here to break down all the moves that are shaping this team's future, right? From re-signees to blockbuster trades to Washington front office moves. The front office been busy, so let's dive into it tonight. We got a lot of segments to hit up on, but Mo, I want to hit up with this one first, man. The key signees and retentions. The people that Washington kept, right, or brought back and re-signed for this organization this week. They've been busy this week all week long, right? They've been Adam Peters and his staff. Everybody's been moving. The Commanders entered free agency with 24 players hitting the market, right, and wasted no time locking in the key contributors from last year, right? They've been locked in. This is the one I wanted to see, right? This is the big one right here. I said it last year in the podcast, I needed them to bring Marcus Mariota back, right? And they brought Marcus Mariota back. It is big. Marcus Mariota is he signed for a 1-year deal for $8 million, right? Let's think about it. Last year, Marcus Mariota showed great leadership and reliability last season, and the team clearly valued his presence behind Jaden Daniels. When the Carolina game, he came in, and I believe it was the Atlanta game that he came in as well. Atlanta or Tampa, I can't remember.
No, Dallas at the end.
Dallas, right. In the season, Dallas game that Marcus came in and helped the Washington Commanders
secure W's.
Still the game, right? Your thoughts on the Marcus Mariota signing and how big it was to Washington?
I think the Marcus Mariota signing this offseason has a complete 180 feel than it did last offseason. We have a co-host here who was very adamant that he didn't want to see Marcus Mariota on the field last year until the day came and they needed him to be on the field, right? Marcus Mariota showed his veteran leadership. He showed his poise. I think no bigger moment than when he came in to fill in for Jaden Daniels in the Carolina game after Jaden Daniels first injured his ribs, and nobody knew what that timetable was going to be like. He came in. Not only did he play well in that game, they were dominant in that game. It's like they never lost a stride in that game, to the tune of scoring 40 on the Carolina Panthers and him orchestrating the offense beautifully. I believe at some point of that game, he hadn't had an incompletion up to like a pass as like 12th or 13th completion of the game. So Mariota being one of the original godfathers of the spread offense in college, I think bodes well for him in this system. That Cliff Kingsbury employs on the field. His demeanor, you could tell he's super comfortable with himself, right? You could tell he's comfortable with his position of his career. Like he's not threatening to want to come in and try to be a starter. He's just here doing his job, being a wily veteran. And it's sort of like he's just giving all of the knowledge that he has and trying to impart it on to Jaden and encouraging him. He even had that cool moment at the end of one of the games where he walks up to Jaden and he asks him, is he all right? And Jaden says he's all right. He said, all right, now go do what God bless you to do and go win us this game. And that just showed me the kind of teammate that he was. And for an $8 million price tag and the way that he showed up in the two big spots last year where he had to play majority of the games, I think that was a steal. Jaden's comfortable with him. It's one of those moves where like you don't really need to shake the room. Everything was going well with that part of the team, so keep that going.
Yeah, definitely do that, man. You got to definitely keep it going. Other big signing that we had this week, and everybody talked about it. We talked about it earlier this week. We talk about leadership that's coming back and the presence that needed to be there. And that's Bobby Wagner, right? The veteran linebacker, Bobby Wagner. And Washington signs him to a 1-year deal, $9.5 million contract. Bobby also gets to complete his master's degree, I believe his MBA, sorry.
His MBA.
His MBA at Howard University. This linebacking staff and guys like McGee, Luvu can learn from Bobby Wagner being Washington one more year, right? I think the 1-year signing for Bobby Wagner is huge for the success of the Washington Commanders defense and for what he meant to this team, not just on the field, but off the field as well. He was that leader in the locker room that helped everybody else out, man. But your thoughts on Bobby Wagner, another key re-signee for the Washington Commanders?
As we know, Bobby Wagner, future, I would assume, first ballot Hall of Famer. We're going on now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-time consecutive All-Pro, whether first team or second team. And a lot of people think his production took a dip last year with 132 tackles in his 13th season. But that's just another. He's never had less than 100 tackles at any point of his career. Just an ode to him and how he keeps himself and he prepares. We know he plays the game at this stage of his career from the neck up, even though he still has some value on the field. He is the green dot. We saw him progress throughout the course of the year. A lot of people had questions after the Tampa game, but then again, it was the first game. It was super humid. But then you seen them anchor down and lock in, and him be the leader that everybody knew that he was going to be. He may not be Legion of Boom, Bobby Wagner anymore, but you're talking about the green dot in the middle of this defense. Somebody that has familiarity with the linebacker coach, with the head coach, and who's played in this system almost every year of his career outside of running to the Los Angeles Rams for 1 year. So Bobby Wagner for 1 year, $9.5 million. He only signed for $1 more million than he signed for last year. I think that's a steal. He's a glue guy, right? He's a glue guy. He's a veteran presence here, and I couldn't imagine this offseason going without him returning.
Yeah,
because of the presence that he left last year.
Yeah, I think Bobby Wagner had to be the one to return, which helps the Luvu and the rest of the defense out, especially when we get to what they're adding on the defensive line. You need somebody who's able to teach and who knows what's going on and can put these guys in the right place, who's not timid, right, and directing and moving guys, and that's Bobby Wagner. Then we go, we switch to the other side of the ball, right? Another key part for guys that have not heard, we revisiting the key re-signees of the Washington Commanders. Thanks for joining us. If you just joined us, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of our podcasts. But we're talking about Zach Ertz, man. Zach Ertz has revitalized himself. People thought he was going to retire last year, but when Noah Brown went down, Zach Ertz became one of the big key targets for Jaden Daniels. And not only, and he stepped up in the playoffs as well for Jaden Daniels, the big touchdown in Tampa. Zach Ertz led this team at the tight end position, blocking and just being that leader that needed to be. So Washington inks him in, signs him for 1 more year at $9.5 million. Again, gives Jaden Daniels another opportunity to grow with Zach Ertz and more weapons. I think Zach Ertz being a tight end for Washington has helped Jaden in this team a lot because, again, another veteran presence and a guy who's been there before.
I mean, you're talking about a veteran presence. You're talking about a safety valve, most importantly, for Jaden Daniels. As you know, as you stated, once Noah Brown went down, he was the unequivocal second option in this offense to the tune of 66 catches for just under 660 yards. He was an automatic first down, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. Averaging 9.9 yards a catch. He added another 7 scores. He made himself some money towards the end of the year, coming up big on some key catches and extending. I believe he is the one that scored the game-winning touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons on that Sunday night, wasn't he?
Yes.
Right. So he had pivotal moments. He had pivotal first downs. I know a lot of people wanted more. Felt like he left a little on the bone, but like he's 34 years old, 12-year vet. Yes, he's lost a step, but he showed his value in coming up with some big catches and being a safety valve for the rookie quarterback and making sure that he was there to make sure that he could extend drives. So bringing him back for $9 million seems to be right up, like it seems to be a fair contract, something that both sides wanted, and it's good to see him back.
Yeah, definitely good to see him back. It is definitely needed. Um, it's definitely needed to have Zach Ertz back, right? And that's one of the things that will help this offense move further along. Another big signing, man. I'm glad they signed this guy. I've been talking about it all season. At the end of last season, they needed to sign him, even though he didn't do much last year. He didn't have to punt much, but when he did punt, it gave us a good field position. That's Tressway, man. I wish this dude will retire as a Washington Commander. Never let this guy go because he is one of the best special teams guys that we've had in this organization for a long time. And go, of course, it was a no-brainer, right? They re-signed Tressway. He's reliable. Great guy. We know he gave his jersey up to Jaden Daniels last year. He holds kicks for field goals. Whatever needs to be done, man, Tress is doing it. And I think he's a pivotal part to this team and how this team was able to flip the field a lot last year. When they did punt, because they didn't punt much, right? This team didn't punt much, but when they did punt, Tressway is top notch, man. Thoughts on them re-signing Tressway?
Another no-brainer. You got a guy, as we've joked about all year, with the efficiency of Jaden Daniels. Um, it seemed like Jaden Daniels was repaying him back for giving up his jersey number at the rate at which he had to punt last year, but he was still averaging about 47 yards a punt, right? You talk about a staple in this team, a long-time tenured, the longest tenured commander, or however you want to represent, from dating back to the other team name to the transitional team name to now the Commanders. 11 years here, as you said. It just feels like Tressway should be here and should continue his career and finish his career here because of he was at one point, when the lowly seasons, he was at one point the only All Pro, right? The only All Pro from this team, right? Pro Bowler, All Pro that you can count on, and he's continued his way. So he's not. There's no slippage in his percentage. There's no slippage in his game. So keep that rolling. There's continuity there, and like you said, he's reliable on special teams in a multitude of ways, as he holds kicks also. And we didn't see any botch kicks last year, so keep that rolling too.
Yeah, definitely. And some of the other key notables that was re-signed by the Washington Commanders. John Bates, tight end, signed. We had KJ Ogborn, who was also signed. Zane Gonzalez was also re-signed from this team. The one I want to talk about a little bit now, Mo, is I wish Wole was on, but he's covering the MEAC tournament this week. Is the Noah Brown signing from today. The Noah Brown signing, they re-signed Noah Brown, right? You get a 1 year.
Before that though, don't forget both Noahs got re-signed as of tonight. Igbinogany came back today too.
Right, Igbinogany came back as well. Right, both Noahs, Igbinogany and Noah Brown. So with Noah Brown resigning, we know Noah Brown before he got hurt was Jaden Daniels' guy. Right, we talked about it on many podcasts earlier that it was as if Jaden was going to Noah more than he was going to Terry.
At some point, yep.
At some point, right? Because Noah was getting open and Noah was there. But of course, we know Noah caught the Hail Mary pass against the Chicago Bears. How big is it, and what kind of help does this contribute to with Noah Brown coming back? We know we added Deebo Samuels. We'll get to that in a little bit later. So you're looking at, you got Terry McLaurin, Deebo maybe in the slot, and then Noah Brown on the outside. If they run a 3-wide receiver set, how crucial, how important that could be for the Washington receiving core next year.
I think it goes a long way. I think we've been asking the question since Diami's departure, or right before Diami's departure, who would be wide receiver 2, like mainly on the outside, because we know that Deebo's kind of that gadget player that you play in the slot and you play in the backfield. But I think this bodes well. They already have a rapport. Him and Jaden Daniels have a rapport. He showcased his talents a couple of times last year. He flashed a couple of times. I know from experience the big catch that he made against the Giants in week 2 to set them up for the game-ending field goal, the Hail Mary or the Hail Maryland, however you want to call it, right? And a couple of other big catches. But I think for the tune of this team, with Terry being wide receiver 1, now Deebo being traded for and being that utility guy in the middle, I think it bodes well for Noah to play on the backside. He gets cornerback number 3, right? He is an experienced starter, starting 9 games last year out of the 11 that he played. Knowing this offense, so there's no learning curve, right? He can come in another year smarter, another year prepared, and hopefully he's fully healed from his injury, and he can bounce back and he can make some plays on the outside. When plays break down, or when Jaden goes through his reads and 1 or 2 are covered because they're going to draw a lot of attention. Now you have the biggest wide receiver option on the field playing against the 3rd corner or the 4th corner or the star, right? And he can make some plays standing at 6'2", 220. He has the stature, but most importantly, another key aspect of Noah's game is his blocking. All
Yes.
3 of these receivers, Terry, Deebo, and Noah, are willing and able blockers. So now you have an extra blocker with the stature that he has on the backside of plays. And if this team gets that electric running back that they've been fiending for, there can be some cutbacks. There can be some longer runs down the field based off the blocking.
But not
So
only that,
Noah,
but add to your point, also the screen game. We saw last year against Detroit when Terry caught screen and went because of the blocking of De'Ami Brown and McCaffrey. I believe McCaffrey was on the field as well. But they want receivers to block, right? They want receivers to be able to block downfield. So that works well too. Also, something added to Zach Ertz that we forgot to add. This is Zach Ertz's 3rd or 4th year in this system underneath Cliff Kingsbury. So which also makes him valuable for Jaden Daniels, because they ran this a little bit of a form of this in Arizona. When Cliff was a head coach. So which adds to this piece. So it goes to the point where we talk about Noah Brown, Deebo Samuels. You got Zach Ertz potentially the starter on the field, along with Terry McLaurin. You have 4 or 5 options with Jaden Daniels, who's the quarterback in the running threat, and with whoever insert running back. That offense looks very more potent now, even than it did last year. It seems as if they upgraded, in my eyes, the offense. I'm gonna give a couple questions.
And they upgraded in a subtle way, right? They didn't upgrade with a big flashy name or a big game. So a lot of people are, weary about it. But continuity is the name of the game. You do not want to go to the NFC Championship one year and come back and have to change everything up. You want to keep most of the things the same. It worked well last year. Let the organization cook and let them build together. Let them build. They've talked about the family nature, right? The brotherhood in this locker room. You want to keep that intact. You don't want to infuse that with too many more new people. Like clearly that brotherhood, that bond, that linkage from last year and that experience from last year should carry over, right? It should give them confidence and poise in tough moments this upcoming season. And it should help elevate Jaden's game even more because everything is done with Jaden in mind. So
Definitely does that, man. Let's get some of these questions out the way real quick. My man Sean says this. Sean said, if Jaden misses a series or a game, I feel good about Marcus, meaning Marcus Mariota running the offense. I think we all feel better now with Marcus. We were a little nervous at first, but as we see what Marcus can do, we all feel a little bit better. But Paul, my man Paul, what's up, Paul? Paul says this about Noah Brown. He gives them a big body. Give them a big body if he stays healthy. That's the key. We need him to stay healthy. Definitely need Noah Brown to stay healthy. And also, Paul says this, man, the wide receiver room is much stronger and physical. When you add a Deebo Samuel and you add a Noah Brown, they are physical. KJ Osborne, I got to see what he does. He hasn't played in a while, right? Has not played in a while. And so we got to be able to see that. What's up, Coach? Coach says this, man. Mariota has a super smart move. Mariota was a super smart move. Yes, it was, Coach. That was the one that I really wanted Washington to do and make sure he didn't leave the building, because I don't know which other backup can come back in here and be a good support for Jaden Daniels.
You gotta believe that his experience with the spread offense and the multiple spread offense he's run, it might be different verbiage, but the concepts remain the same, right? And he would be the expert in the room. You don't want somebody new to come and Jaden have to put more on his plate of having to teach the room. You have a guy in there that knows it. Marcus can alleviate that from Jaden. Jaden can just worry about Jaden. And then Marcus could be an extra set of eyes on the sideline like he was last year and in practice like he was last year. And you seen how that turned out, right? So keep that continuity, keep that going. And in case of emergency and you have to break the glass, we've seen last year that Marcus Mariota can come and be adequate and be more than formidable right? We don't know about it in a long stretch of the season, but we know about it in spot duty that he can and he was able to lead this team to victory. He
Definitely.
necessarily and this, like Jaden Daniels got credited for the he got credited for the Carolina game W, but that was really Marcus Mariota's W, right? He got credited for the last game of the season, but that was really Marcus Mariota's W. So he came in and he added to this team, even though it didn't go on his win total for his career.
Definitely, man. Let's move on. Move on to the next segment. Next segment of the show. Here it is.
Before we do, any
Go ahead.
words on Noah Igbenogany? I know he was late. It was a late
Oh
signing
yeah.
today.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was late time. I think it was good. I think Noah played well last year. I thought there were spots where Noah Igbenogany stepped up, broke some balls there. I think I like the fact that he tackles well. He does come up and tackle well. Covers. I think with him, Mikey, he adds to that corner. He adds to that depth that they need. Right.
Right.
They need people to fight that position out. Who's going to be the guy on the field? They need a competition to make. And we know competition makes everybody better. So when they have that competition on the field, he'll get better. Right. He'll be the. I think Paul just said it. He'll be the fourth quarterback, right? He'll be the fourth cornerback out there. But competition in a room. When you have competition in a room, it makes everybody better. We don't know what Marshawn Lattimore's health situation is. I'm just being honest, right? We want him to play. That dude hamstring. His hamstring may be gimpy. He got a whole season, but again, you need the next guy, next man up, or they say the next brother up in this brotherhood thing. So, and you need a guy around who knows the defense and who can actually play, who played a lot of games this year. And
that's the point. That's the point that I wanted to make about him. He knows the defense, right? He played in it last year. He started to play formidable towards the end of the year also. The beginning of the year was a little shaky, and I believe that's because he was playing out of position, right? They started to move him inside once Mikey got comfortable outside and started playing well, and we saw an uptick in his game, right? He's only 25 years old. People forget that he's a former first-round draft pick by the Miami Dolphins, right? So there's pedigree there. There's some talent there that scouts saw. And he can build on that by not having to learn a new system, not having to go somewhere new, and knowing the scheme, gelling with this defense for another year, and hopefully you see an improvement in his play, or you see him carry on the end of the play that he had at the end of the season last year. So I wanted to mention him because I feel like that was a sneaky good pickup, especially with the addition of Jonathan Jones from the Patriots. Yeah. Also, I think that was a godsend to a lot of Commanders fans because that meant that a number 25 was no longer in Washington colors, and he ran far away and took his talents to the West Coast. So
yeah, we're gonna talk about him. We're gonna talk about him a little later too as he goes to the West Coast because that bad boy is gone.
He's gone, and a lot of fans were feeling like good riddance too. So now
I don't know if they got Wegmans in the West Coast or not, but you know they got a new employee.
Hey, definitely got a Rouse out there though. So I think Noah's addition, Noah coming back is a plus. Like I said, when something's good, when things are good, you don't go trying to fix something that's already all right. You know what I mean? Like this are decent. This defense had its woes early. It started to tighten up later. You know, it bent, but it didn't break. And then the bottom fell out against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the tail of the season can't just be in one game. You have to look at it all the way through.
Look all the way through, man. And we talked about that. We have talked about that Eagle game extensively. The fumbles and how Eagles' defensive line was just that much better that day. All right. But let's move on, man. The Washington Commanders had some big acquisitions in this free agency period as well. Let's talk about the big splashes, right? We all know the first big splash was Deebo Samuels. No one saw it coming. No one expected it coming. The Commanders traded for Deebo Samuels from the 49ers, giving up just a fifth-round pick, right? Which his wild recent production for Deebo has dipped a little bit, right? His upside is tremendous, right? We already see videos and how he's working and getting himself in shape and how he's trying to stay healthy. Deebo, and we talked about Deebo, Terry, Jaden. This offense, again, can be scary with a focused Deebo Samuels, the one that can who get back to the Deebo Samuels of just a few years ago. He's motivated again. He's back in. Not saying he was in a bad organization, but he's where he wants to be, right? He wants to be in Washington. Him and Adam Peters reunited again, and let's see if it feels good.
No, man. anybody looking at that trade and thinking that it's a bad thing is a hater, right? I think Deebo is the ultimate chess piece. No, I don't think he'll no longer regain his 1,400-yard form in his best season. In his, I believe that was like his second year in the league, but he's with another creative mind in terms of the offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury.
Mm-hmm.
He is the ultimate chess piece, which we typically see in the college game,
Yeah.
which suits Cliff Kingsbury's offense. He is not the primary target on the offense. That is Terry McLaurin. So Terry's going to yield the coverage. And when Terry yields the coverage, that leaves Deebo one-on-one with either cornerback number 2 or cornerback number 3. And based off of his pedigree and his name, he should win majority of those matchups. And it'd be exciting to see how Cliff Kingsbury decides to employ him. I wonder how many handoffs he's actually going to take because he has been banged up. The thing about Deebo Samuel is you can go back and go check his games played. You'll look at the games played and you'll be like, oh, he's not often hurt. But a lot of times he's playing banged up because he's such a tough guy, right? He was such a pivotal part of the San Francisco offense that even when he was hurt, he had to play because he's a decoy on a lot of plays with his movement across the board, right? And I think he's going to bring a lot of that to the Commanders with a better, well, let me say this, a more talented quarterback.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to, and he don't have to touch the ball as much.
He doesn't have to touch the ball because the ball can be spread a lot more. Well, he was in a high octane offense with a lot of Pro Bowlers and a lot of All Pros, so I can't say that. Well, it's good in some ways in DC, and it's worse off in some ways in DC because DC doesn't have the caliber of players that the San Francisco 49ers had during his tenure. But DC does have players in the position that are good at what they do. Yeah. And Deebo just needs to come find his niche, be a part of the brotherhood. It is a contract year for him. I know a lot of people thought it was a steal for Adam Peters to go get him for a 5th-round pick, but I look at it as Adam Peters just went back home and he got a favor from one of his homeboys. His homeboy didn't want to pay the bill over there. He had a draft pick. He was like, we'll pay the bill for you. I'll give you a draft pick. And it made sense, right? Because they've worked together for so long. And he was a part of the regime that brought in Deebo Samuel. Who would know Deebo Samuel better than him? So it was a calculated risk, right? Because all the intel was already there. They were in constant communication, clearly. And even though Deebo's his production has slipped a little, and people question some of his character because last year he mushed the teammate after a field goal or whatnot. He has a fresh start. He should be motivated because his game is no longer better than his name, right? So now he should be wanting to get his reputation back, and he's fighting for a contract because he's on a 1-year prove-it deal here. He's on the last year of his big extension that he signed with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key there too. He's motivated, and we've seen what Washington did, right? We've seen what Washington did with guys who've had 1-year deals, right? It was coach got to say, coach said this. He punched the long snapper. Hey, frustration, man. We all been there, right? Everybody's been there. Deebo was frustrated, but again, he said fresh start, right? Fresh start, 1-year deal. Got to prove yourself. Then look what this team did with guys on 1-year deals last year who had to prove themselves.
Lesser guys,
right? Lesser guys who had to prove themselves. So it stepped up. I like the 1-year deal thing, truth be told.
Yeah.
Hey, prove yourself and get paid.
Yep.
You don't, and you leave. Right?
You can go shopping for it if you like next year. And then another element we got to add to Deebo Samuel is he wore that C on his chest in San Francisco. So he's bringing veteran leadership, his own form of leadership. I think a lot of people saw them with the boombox coming out. He was the heartbeat of the San Francisco 49ers, especially on offense. He was the attitude, right? So he's going to bring a little bit of that over here. I can't wait to see the way that Cliff Kingsbury employs him against the defense. I can't wait to see him and Austin Eckler both in the backfield because they're both gadget players, and what kind of stress that puts on the defense, especially linebackers, or when defensive coordinators are trying to match up with them because they both have two-way goals. They both can hand the ball. They both can carry the ball. They both can catch it out the backfield. They both can catch it in space. They both are kick returners, punt returners. So I think that I think it for the situation, it's a match made in heaven for him in his last year of his contract.
Yo, James says this. Yeah. These people got Deebo wrong. He's gonna be an animal this year. He's gonna be the animal. Somebody's gonna be an animal
James,
this
you
year.
got to prove it though, James. We can't keep
Yeah,
resting our laurels on one season. It's been 3 consecutive years.
I gotta see it. Gotta see it. KJ Osborne, which Washington acquired last year, didn't test the field last year. George says this. It reminds him of Deebo Samuels. Maybe that's why they re-signed him. We'll see. I mean,
He's a physical slot receiver. I mean, he's a physical slot receiver. His best days were in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins. He was only still the third receiver there when they had a young Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and he came up big in some moments. Like he's made some plays, right? But there's more to be seen with him. There's more to be seen with him. If you look at how now the wide receiver room is unfolded, it's Terry, it's Deebo, it's Noah, right? Those three are right there. I'm sorry. Speaking of the brother, Luke McCaffrey is there because he was this organization's, he was in their first batch of picks in the 4th round last year. So you have to see that. Like KJ Osborne's going to have to fight to earn a spot. I'm pretty sure they're not going to keep more than 5, 6. At this point, they probably won't keep more than 5 wide receivers at a time.
Yeah, 5. But Luke may go back and catch punts in return.
No, for sure. Luke has added value.
Right? Luke has value. Also, they signed Larry Tunsil. We talked about him extensively on our last show. They acquired him from Houston. Pro Bowl left tackle. Not much to say. He is really there to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side. He is the bookend that Washington needed to make sure Jaden Daniels stays upright. Tunsil, again, top 2 left tackle in the league. Pro Bowler. People don't get to the quarterback from his side. Plays him. They don't get the quarterback from his side at all, right? The money that he was losing in the draft because he wanted to put a gas mask on, he made that money back.
Oh yeah,
he's made it back.
He negotiated his last contract by himself with no representation. But you're talking about one of the premier left tackles in the league. You're talking about a dancing black bear, right? You're talking about somebody that's light on their feet, somebody that can maintain and contain anything on his side of the field without much help, right? And you're talking about a perennial Pro Bowler. He's been a Pro Bowler more years in his career than he's not been, right? Yeah. Only thing I'm surprised is that he has no All-Pro nods, but we know that sometimes your team ranking and your team standing matters there. He was in Miami. He was on a lot of a lot of the so-so Houston teams. And I think he ran his course in Houston. That's why they were ready to get up off of him. Whatever their direction is, I think the Commanders lucked up on that. Whoever jumped up and made that call and inquired, or however that came about, I think was a good thing. They gave up. I'm not going to say it was a easy trade. They did give up a lot for him in terms of him being a 30-year-old. They gave up a 2nd rounder, a 3rd rounder 1 year, a 4th rounder, right? But if you can get a left tackle who is undisputedly a top 5 left tackle in the league given on a given year, I think that's a plus for your team.
Yeah, I think him being 30, he can still play another 5 years as offensive lineman, right? I think he still play. He's still young in shape. He has that switch, that it factor, that nastiness that we talk about that you look to have. The line will be much better. We should be able to get a push. Should be able to get a running game going. So again, it is not. If we can't run the ball this year with the offensive line, then there's a problem. Because offensive line, if they stay healthy, everybody stay healthy. So you got this the questionable one. Everybody talks about Javon Kinlaw, right? They said Washington gave him too much money, 3 years, $45 million. With Jonathan Allen gone, we know Jonathan Allen left. We talked about Jonathan Allen here in a minute. Jonathan Allen left, and they had to bring in another D lineman, and they brought in Javon Kinlaw. They also brought in today Detroit Wise. Wise from New England came in.
New England at the DN. They also brought in Eddie Golden yesterday as another D tackle.
As another D tackle. So they bring a lot of D linemen and D tackles in to, again, create that competition. right, to see which ones pan out to create that room. Because you got Deron Payne, you got Johnny Newman, you got Johnny Newton, excuse me, Javon Kinslaw, you got Wise, you got Goldman in that now. So you're starting to build this thing up, and you're building up through free agency, and you can throw a young guy in there from the draft, and so now you have something building for the future. So they acquired some D tackles, and which we all know that's a short spot, right? The sore spot. That spot was in the bottom, right? The bottom last year, and against run defense, against the run. Giving up, averaging about almost 5 yards a run or 5 yards a carry. And we saw it in Detroit. I don't care if they won the game, but Jameer Gibbs was getting about 9 to 10 yards a carry every time he touched the ball. So,
man, that Kinlaw, another player near and dear to Adam Peters' heart, was a part of the regime that drafted him. They had a lot of hopes for him coming out of South Carolina when he came out as a first round. He was a top 15 pick. He's a big boy, massive, 6'5", 315 to 320, right? I think they got a bigger physical player in there. I don't think he's the player that Jonathan Allen was. I'm going to be honest about that. I don't think he's ever showcased that in his career, right? He's been hurt a couple of times. San Francisco moved away from him before the end of his before they let him play out his rookie deal. They didn't extend him to the 5th-year option. He went over to New York with the Jets, and he played next to Quinnen Williams last year, another all-pro type D tackle, and he posted 4.5 sacks. He put up his best season since his rookie season in the league, and I think that's what yielded him. I thought that the $15 million price tag was a little too much, but in free agency, sometimes you have to overpay, and you hope that your coaching staff can get the most out of a player, and that was a risk that they were willing to take once again with a player that they were familiar with, right? Somebody that they did all their homework on. That was a short homework project, right? Because the homework was already done. They just had to go back and review their notes, right? Get the Spark notes if you hear what I'm saying, Glenn. So they went back and hit their Spark notes. They saw the upside because he finally was playing. And, I think a lot of fans see the sack numbers and they want him to be like the upper echelon D tackles, but every D tackle is not good in getting to the quarterback, right? That might not be their primary strong suit. But what this team faced last year was they were getting gashed down the middle. Jonathan Allen got some of that. Deron Payne got a lot of that. Johnny Newton got some of that, right? And they brought in another body. They brought in a different kind of body. They brought in a bigger body, hopefully to match up against the Eagles' big offensive line front, right? Because they're the premier team in the division right now. And Kinlaw is to come to Washington to have a fresh start, to be around people that already know him, to receive better coaching, hopefully, to finally make something of his career. So this is an opportunity for him to extend his career and keep it pushing. Or if it's much like the same, it was a $15 million tag. I believe that he's only on he's only $7 million against the cap this year because of the way they structured the deal. So it's team friendly after the first year, and then they can make a decision about him. Right?
Yeah,
so he has a great opportunity to showcase something that they thought that he had already and play on a team that clearly was well coached last year and see what he can do with his talent.
Definitely see what he can do. So a name I also forgot, I think Paul for putting it in with Jacob Martin, who got signed a couple hours ago, early this evening from the Chicago Bears. Martin played a little bit last year as well. Played a 1-year deal last year for the Chicago Bears. Ended up with 15 tackles, 9 solos, 3.5 sacks. He played 213 defensive snaps for the Bears. But again, it just adds to the defensive end position that we need. We need guys to get to the football, right?
Right.
Need guys to get to the football. The name that we haven't heard anybody sign yet, right? I think this guy may return back to this team is Dante Fowler. No one has picked him up yet, right? I don't think as of right now, unless somebody signs or y'all let me know has something happened with Dante Fowler since we've been on. But right now, Fowler has not been picked up by the Washington Commanders or anybody else. But you need those DNs to come back. And so Fowler may come back to this organization, may not. But again, they have picked up Jacobs today. And
to your point at the DN spot, I think the biggest signing at the DN spot was Dietrich Weiss Jr. Talking about a big boy, 6'5", 280 pounds. I think he's the opposite of Dante Fowler, right? Dante Fowler put up the big sack numbers last year, rushing primarily on passing downs, right? But he was horrendous against the run.
Couldn't set the
He was
edge.
horrendous against the run, right?
Couldn't set the edge.
He couldn't
Not at
set
all.
the edge to save his life, right? I'm looking at in the picture that plays in my mind the most is the playoff game, the first carry that Saquon had when he took his 60 yards.
Yes.
He does a loop-de-loop spin, but he's getting blocked inside the trenches by A.J. Brown, a wide receiver.
Should never happen.
He trips and falls and then gets in Bobby Wagner's way. Bobby Wagner falls and can't get to the ball. And then Saquon's running 60 yards of pay dirt, hitting his head on the goalpost. So if that's the last impression of him in the run game, I understand why he's not signed yet, right? And then we have to tell the truth about Dante Fowler. He's been a pass rusher for hire his whole career. He didn't finish his rookie deal. He went to the Jacksonville Jaguars when they were Saxonville. He's bounced around the league. He's had 2 to 3. He's had 2 to 3 seasons where you're like, and then he always follows it up with a dud. You have to follow the history. You have to follow the pattern. Every time he's had double sack digits, he follows it up with a 4 to 5 sack season. You're wondering, who am I getting? Am I getting the guy from last year, or am I getting whatever this is? And if you can't play against the run, and the Eagles are the preeminent team in the division, and they're running directly at you and Deron Payne, and neither one of you guys can do anything about it, they need to bring somebody else in. And that's Dietrich Weiss, 6'5", 280 pounds. He has a different frame, right? He may not get the gaudy sack numbers, but I promise you he's going to set the edge. He's going to allow linebackers to flow. He's going to allow Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner to do their job and get there in enough time to make a tackle and not get gashed for 20, 30, 40, 50 yards at a time. So I'm hoping that the construction that with the team, with the DNs, are to fit the run, and then hopefully you get that preemptive DN that can garner a double team in the draft with that 29th pick or whatever they decide to do with trading back and this, that, and the third. Yeah. But this team did need to overhaul that DN because Cleveland Farrell was atrocious also.
He was, but I think this team also understands too that the front half is going to, they have a good back half, right? They decently now, the Washington Commanders have a good back half. You talk about Mikey, you talk about Marshawn Lattimore, you talk about who else they got back there?
Quan
Martin back there, right? So they got a good back half that's back there. So so that's some of the things that they have that's good for them. So the front half is what needed to be retooled and regrouped. So if you get some more consistency up there and to stop the run, not necessarily sacks, but to be able to be a plug stopper to make quarterbacks feel uncomfortable and make them move out of the pocket, that they can do well defensively. We also, my man, they also added another former safety from New Orleans Saints. Can't remember his name.
Will Harris Jr.
Yeah, Will Harris Jr. was also signed. I know Wole's not a big fan of that signing, and we talked about it in the chat. It was the guy who was on the board. I'm not a big fan of it neither, but it was who's on the board. And
I mean, he fits the bill, right? He fits the bill for a box safety. You want a box safety. You want somebody that's physical. That is what he is. He's a physical safety. He makes a play or two on the ball here and there. He has enough coverage ability to hang in there with tight ends from time to time. I wouldn't say that Jeremy Chin was excellent in the past game either, right? He was a bigger body though. He was 6'3", 220. Jeremy Chin also, as I was arguing with the Wole offline before we got on the show, is Jeremy Chin prior to coming to the Commanders had fell off a cliff, right?
Well, he disappeared some last year. I mean, let's be honest. He was there, and then he disappeared. Then he reappeared. Right? So you got a guy here who was a formidable starter for the New Orleans Saints last year. It was his only year in New Orleans. He spent about 5 years, I believe, 5 or 6 years before that in Detroit. He was a part of Detroit's secondary. He's a former third-round pick out of Boston College when Boston College had a top-ranked defense in college. He's a 6'1", 210-pound-ish safety. He has some mobility with he can move. He brings some he brings some lumber. So hopefully, the same way Jeremy Chin got coached up last year, you can plug and play him here. And because people have forgot Jeremy Chin's name, you plug and play him here. He gets coached appropriately. Everybody else is gelling. That front is gelling, right? That defensive line is holding their own.
Them linebackers are flowing. He can come up and he can clean up and he can rack up the tackles that he needs to make a couple of plays in the pass game and prove himself worthy. It's the opportunity for a guy though.
Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity. You know,
and he was cheap. He was cheap.
Yeah,
2 years, $8 million.
2 years, $8 million. Again, you want I'm gonna say this: you want competition in the room, right? Don't give anybody a spot. Make everybody work for everything, right?
Absolutely.
You make everybody work for everything. Then the backup guy is good too.
Yep.
Right. Because
and
everybody's
speaking of the backup guy, Percy Butler's there. Right.
Right.
Speaking of the backup guy, you know, a lot of people have been high on Percy Butler over the years. Now him and Will can battle it out for that position because Percy Butler has been in line. He's filled in sometimes, and may the best man win. And because whoever the best man is will be formidable for the job. And then the defense just has to gel, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Definitely. Also, another key re-signing is backup center Michael Dieter. We saw him several times last year as Biotish had to go out. And so, which is good, great to sign a backup center who knows the offense and knows everything about it as well. So that's another big re-signing. We signed a lot of players that we've talked about here, been talking about on All Burgundy Gold, everything for the last 30, 40 minutes. We have signed players. We got players through trades. We got players through big acquisitions. We re-signed some of the core leadership. But don't you know, with re-signing core leadership, was getting big trades and blockbuster deals, there come a time that you got to say goodbye to some people, right? You got to say goodbye. And we had to say some goodbye and some to some of our favorites or some of your favorites, right? People who had to depart this team and move on to greener pastures, we hope. Well, the biggest name is Jonathan Allen, right? Jonathan Allen has been with the Washington Commanders since he came into the league. He had to go somewhere else, and he got paid. Mo, he talked about it in the chat. He got paid, right? He leaves Washington and gets the big payday, 3 years, $60 million from the Minnesota Vikings after being released. That's $20 million a year for a guy who didn't play a lot of snaps last year, who got hurt. He getting paid, getting rewarded for leaving Washington.
The contract is up to $60 million. I believe it's really 51.
Yeah,
right?
But he has incentives in there that. Yeah, with the incentives, it get to be $60 million.
It can be $60 million. Jonathan Allen's he did his time here. He got his 2 Pro Bowls. He was a leader. He was a staple. It was time for him to go.
Yeah.
It was time for him to go. Unfortunately, his last season was marred by injury. He played the season before that with Liz Frank, and he wasn't at full tilt. And it showed, right? It showed on the field. But he gave his all to this organization. He wanted to, he came and in talking about giving his all. Last year, he missed about 8 to 9 games and did everything he could to come back and play in the playoffs and showed his grit and how involved and how invested he was in this team. The team is definitely going to miss his leadership, right? They're definitely going to miss his leadership, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. You did 8 years here, 8 great years for him. Like, it was time to move on. Minnesota rewarded him handsomely. A lot more handsomely than I thought. Yeah. Brian Flores has that defense rocking up there. He thought he'd be a pivotal part. They added him and Javon Hargrave over there, a defect from San Francisco 49ers to make their formidable 10. I believe that's where they thought they were weak last year, right?
Yeah.
So Jonathan Allen has an opportunity to go somewhere to remain a full-time starter, to get the same amount of money that he was making in Washington, give or take $1 or $2 million. And if he does play above the level that he was playing at in Washington, it can result in extra money for him. I think that Commanders fans just tip their cap to him and tell him thank you and wish him well in Minnesota.
Yeah, definitely do that. Hey, I can't say nothing bad. He did what he needed to do for 8 years. Time to move on, and they moved on. We talked about it on the show last year when he got hurt. That might have been his last down when he came back, and got healed up and played. So and he showed glimpses of himself in the playoff game. So let's not look like he came out there and he was a bum. So he showed glimpses of who he is and what he can be. We talked about De'Ami Brown. De'Ami Brown, he took his talents back down. He took his talents to Jacksonville. A 1 year, $10 million deal. Hey, gotta go. I'm not mad for De'Ami. Kind of actually happy for De'Ami. What can you do in another team in another system?
Right.
Can you be the guy, the second number 2 somewhere else? Because when they brought Deebo in, and he wasn't going to be the number 2 he got here.
Indeed, he wasn't going to get the opportunities he needed to showcase what he needed to showcase.
He wasn't going to get the opportunity to showcase here, and we really honest. The reason he did last year because all the injuries, people got hurt.
Indeed, so I'm happy for Diami. I think it was the best thing for him to do. He took a prove-it deal, but he's making $10 million. I think that's right up his alley. What he showed in the playoffs, I think a lot of people could see something in. You know, a lot of people saw something there where they're like, okay, I could work with that, right? He's down there in Jacksonville now with Trevor Lawrence, who also needs to bounce back this year, but he has all the tools in his arsenal to be a good quarterback once he gets the consistency and the consistent play. Diami's playing on the other side of standout rookie wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr., who set the league on fire last year in Jacksonville. Even with the quarterback problems down there, right? So with Trevor Lawrence coming back and Diami being another speedster on the other side of somebody that's actually a blazer, a 6'4" blazer, right? I think that bodes well for him because Brian Thomas Jr. is going to take the coverage. All Diami has to do is win his individual one-on-ones and make some plays here and there, and he's gonna bode well to get himself a new contract after next season. If he is who he thinks he is, I think this is the appropriate bet for him as a young receiver who's at that crossroads of his career that's going to determine whether he continues on for another 4 to 5 years or whether his career is going to be done in 1 or 2. Yeah. So good luck to him down there in Jacksonville.
Good luck to him down in Jacksonville. We already talked about Jeremy Chin going to the Raiders. Derek Force, who we knew would not be on this team after this year, he finds himself a home with the Buffalo Bills. And then we see offensive lineman Cornelius Lucas signed a 2-year deal with the Browns. Again, that's a change in the Washington offense. We knew that there was going to be change. Lucas leaving is not to me. It's not a big deal. We all knew that he was going to be gone anyway. We did our show a couple months ago. Lucas is gone, and so we knew Lucas was going to be gone. But Washington, has a strategy, and they've been using that strategy. And I think I like the moves they made so far. Some people don't like it, but you got to get who's on the board. You got to get who fits in your offense or fits on your defense, and you got to sign and from the Dan Snyder era. You don't sign who you like, right? You don't sign and give money to people that you like and you like to be around. You give money to people who's going to produce and who's going to play for you. And that's what Washington, and that's what I see from this. This is a producing.
It's a production league. It's a what have you done for me lately league, right? Especially with Derek Forrest. We saw Jeremy Chin last year. He clearly just outplayed the number that the Washington Commanders were willing to give him, right?
Yeah, so, I played that.
That was understood. And in Oakland threw about $8 million a season at him, which was the number that I think we discussed. I think we discussed like 7. And he got 8. He's going to the West Coast. He's going to be in Vegas, and he's going to do whatever. Derek Forrest is one of them people that it was a head scratcher for me. 2 seasons ago, he had 4 interceptions. He started majority of the games. I remember vividly the game-sealing interception against the Jacksonville Jaguars at FedEx Field on opening day that he made, showing his range, and then he had a decent season that year. It was a lot of upside, and then the following year and this year, he was a nobody. He was a nobody. Right. So that fall from grace, because I thought there was something there. I was kind of surprised that he fell off that way, but he has the opportunity now to go to Buffalo, join that secondary, which is well coached by Sean McDermott, which is what he's done his whole career. DBs and defensive coordinator. He's a defensive-minded coach, and see if he can get some new tread on the wheels, right? And see if he can perform. So kudos to them. Cornelius Lucas has been here for a while. 2 years. He got to sign a 2-year deal in Cleveland. Everybody can use experienced offensive linemen. I don't think he was going to crack it here. I've seen enough of him here to know what he was going to be, what his limitations were. So his best decision was to go elsewhere, right? A lot of people are tied to players, like you said, from the Snyder era and from past years. But this organization has made it clear: either you can play or you're going to be out of here. They got rid of a first-round draft pick in year 2. They got rid of Jamin Davis. They got rid of other first-round draft picks that were here in a heartbeat. They cleared house. Only the guys that were buying into this system and guys that were performing at the rate in which they thought they could perform were sticking around. And that's how you set a precedence for your team. We talk about sustained success all the time. It starts from the organization. It starts from those moves, right? And that's what they're showing everybody. You have to come here with your A game every day. You got to practice hard. You got to perform on Sundays, or unfortunately, there's no room for you here. And this is professional sports, so there's no time to feel sorry for someone.
Nah, it's about business. It's either you produce or you go home.
You produce it or you go home, because you're affecting this salary cap. We can get somebody better in here to help this team. This team was a couple of plays, if it wasn't for the self-inflicted woes in the NFC Championship game, away from representing the NFC in the championship.
People realize the score was 14. They was down by 1, I believe, 14-15 at one point.
At one point. So, unfortunately, the onslaught came on and it never manifested. And that's how the cookie crumbles. The team performs well, or we need to upgrade to certain positions. If you're not it, you got to go. So for the guys that were here that added to that last year, they got paid for their services. This is professional football. This is not rec ball football. This is not middle school football, high school football, right? You have to perform. They have to put the best 53 on the field. And if you're not the best 53 that they can yield, you have to go.
You got to go. Hey, before we get out of here, let's talk about this real quick. The team, you mentioned it a few seconds ago. The team still has about $32.6 million in cap space. All right, I see a lot of these questions in the chat. People want to know, hey, George says this, Becton's still out there. Yes, Mekhi Becton is still out there, but he's looking to get $40 million. They're not paying that. Mm-hmm. He's looking to get paid. He's coming off a Super Bowl team. He just had should have had a 2,000-yard rusher playing behind him.
He did have a 2,000-yard. He should have had an all-time leader rusher.
Oh, yeah, could have had an all-time leader behind him. This young guy, he understands. He's 25 years old. He's looking to get paid, and I don't think Washington's going to give him the money. I'm still curious why Philly hasn't signed him yet.
Philly's parting ways. Philly has to make room for upcoming contracts, right? That's why they traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They actually traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson for a guard that they're going to put in Mekhi Becton's spot. So Mekhi Becton, his price tag is just too much. And remember, Philly brought him in on a 1-year deal. 1 year prove it. Right, 1 year prove it. That was the end of his rookie contract, and they moved him inside the guard. He was a tackle in New York. Yeah, right. They moved him inside. He was a big man tackle, standing at 6'7", 335, 40 pounds.
Very athletic, very athletic guard. Very athletic, good person to have in your locker room. I just wish Washington had the money to do so, or did
Philly did him a solid, Glenn, and I think he was on the best team in the league. And I know Philly knows his limitations, and his limitations, they couldn't go further with his limitations because he still was a project at guard.
Yeah, he's still a project. He's still a project athletically, but again, we all know, I think Paul said it here in the chat, they're going to go with Coleman, right? They're going to put Coleman at that right tackle if you're Washington. But if you could bring Mekhi in for a little bit less price and somehow navigate, don't front load it, but make it incentive base. If he's willing to take it, say 25-year-old guy.
He's a 25 man, Glenn. He's gone. He wants to get paid, and he
wants to get paid.
He hasn't got his big contract yet. He had his rookie deal. He's just going to be out of Washington's wheelhouse.
He is. He's out of Washington.
Unless he gets desperate, and I don't see him getting that desperate. Somebody will give him a multiple year contract. It may not be exactly what he wants, but he'll get something. So
yeah, he'll get anywhere between $30 to $40 million, which is good for him. So with that being said, $32 million, guys in the chat. I want you to guys help us out too as we get ready to close this. Like with $32 million in cap space, and y'all already been answering. What do you want to see Washington get, or who do you want Washington to go get with that $32.6 million in cap space?
I mean, it's probably not $32.6 million anymore because of the late signings today, but it's still somewhere in the high 20-somethings, right? So Washington needs to get another guard, a guard that can start, right? Because you're going to put Brandon Coleman right where Cosme used to be, right? If you put him there, because Cosme is going to come back at some point.
Yes.
So
but not next year. You don't bring Cosme back next year. If you're Washington and you're doing well, and Cosme, you don't bring him back next year.
No, I thought he'd re-up. Cosme got an extension.
No, you bring him. No, he's back. What I'm saying, back on the field, recovering from his ACL.
Oh yeah. Cosme got to stay. He got to stay home this year.
He got to stay home.
He got hurt too late in the season, right?
Yeah.
He got hurt too late in the season. He's an offensive lineman, heavier dude. You need that knee to be stable to take the pounding from another heavier dude, right? Especially the one in the division in Jalen Carter, who was already giving them fits, right? You want to make sure that you are 100% healthy. You want to make sure that you don't have to come out there, even though you probably should play with a brace. You want to make sure you don't have to go out there with a brace unless you want to wear a brace, right? So you put Brandon Coleman there. They need to bring in a quality guard, quality enough to start for at least 1 year, where he can man the left guard, because Laremy Tunsil's there. Brandon Coleman, you trust in at the right tackle. You have Biotish. That's 3 out of the 5 linemen. If you could bring in a quality starter at the other guard, now you have 4 out of the 5 positions locked up. All you have to do is figure out right tackle.
Yeah, definitely that. I'm going to answer these questions, chat. James said we need another left guard.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Sherman says this. Sherman said we need a safety and a defensive end, another defensive end. I think we'll get that in the draft.
The defensive end has to be the 29th pick.
Yeah.
It has to be, because this is a heavy laden defensive end and defensive tackle draft. There's a couple of guys that are going to set the trends. You know how it happens in the draft. People start picking at a position and they start going, right? And then somebody slips. It's going to be a position like, I think the wide receiver is going to sneak into the first round. There's going to be like 4 or 5 of them, which is going to push some good defensive ends further and further. And Washington's going to be in striking distance to get a good player that can come in and be familiar, that can be the starting DN.
Yeah, that's what they definitely need. And man, Ronald, man, I need you to explain what you mean no one, right? Ronald said who they need to get. They need to get no one. This team is not complete. I just want you to know this team is not. This team is definitely not complete. This team still has holes. This team still has holes, and they need to fill some of those holes. Kenneth Grant is not a bad one for this defensive tackle from Michigan. George, he definitely is a good player from there.
George, that dude is going to be in the first half of the first round.
That dude's going to be gone. That dude's going to be gone.
And then the team has 4 D tackles on the roster right now, and they've added 3 this offseason.
Yeah.
So I don't think D tackle is the place to go anymore. You spent $15 million on the D tackle over there. You have a first round draft pick from last year. You have Deron Payne at $22 million. You brought in Eddie Goldman.
Gotta go edge.
You got Dietrich Weiss and you got Dorrance Armstrong, right? I think Dietrich Weiss is a good rotational DN, right? But you need a guy that can dictate double teams so that everybody else can get freed up. Because nobody on the roster right now has a career high of more than 8.5 sacks.
Yeah.
And that's not going to cut it. Even Fowler had 10.5 last year. And that's why he's so mad on Twitter that he's not getting offers.
Yeah. You know, if you talk about edge, man, hopefully you got Pierce Jr., who's out there from Tennessee, who's out there. You got Mike Green, who's from Marshall. If you ever checked him out.
We, on our draft Who Would You Like to See show, I mentioned him a couple of times because he's good enough, but some people are going to have questions because he went to Marshall. If they don't do their homework and know that he was an original UVA guy, and he also has questions he has to answer.
Randy Marshall was the Marshall.
Randy Moss jumped out of the screen, though. You know what I mean?
I know.
Mike Green is good. Mike Green, and then it's a lot of questions with him. He had a scandal that he's a part of that's probably going to knock a lot of people away. So he's a viable option at 29 because he might fall right to Washington. He might fall right in Washington's lap with no interference, having to answer those questions. As long as Washington does their background checks, and he didn't get to compete at the combine, right? So he is going to be heavy upon his pro day coming up to see how he performs. I'm sure Washington is going to send a contingent over there to see what he's really like and interview with him. And he's probably going to be one of the top 30 that they bring in. And I believe that he's going to be there.
The other one that's there, I think, is Michael Williams. I think Michael Williams out of Georgia. He's another one that could go for Washington.
With the pro day that he had the other day, you can cancel Christmas on that. He's a stud. Number 13.
Yeah, he's a stud. But again,
he's a stud.
But again, what we just talked about how people pick and where they pick at and what they pick, and so he's been low on people's board. But the pro day has elevated him a little bit above a lot of these other guys.
Him and Pierce definitely did themselves favors this offseason.
They did themselves favors in the pro day, and they showed themselves up. So again, Those are the 4 or 5 names, the 4 names I think we named 4 that Washington could be eyeing at edge.
But think about it. Jack Sawyer is out there from Ohio State. You have the edge rusher from Arkansas with the I forget his name. He has the ball head, suffers from alopecia. I forget his name. Really, really good talent, right? So there's a lot of talented DNs in this draft, man. Washington's going to find themselves one. And that electrifying running back, that's what they need.
Mm-hmm. So anything else, man? Anybody else give me another pick? Do we give away the 29th pick? No, Sherman. Sherman says this. Do we give away the 29th pick? No, we do not give away the 29th pick at all. Paul said Donovan for BC. And Paul, the only thing with Donovan for BC, man, is that I think he's a little too small.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's small.
He's Fowler-like. He's Fowler-like in that, right?
He's Fowler-like, yeah. He's Fowler-like. That's the only thing with me about Donovan from Boston College is looking at him, he's a little small in my book.
I absolutely thought before the Laremy Tunsil trade and what you had to give up for Laremy Tunsil, I thought this organization was going to make a play on Trey Hendrickson. I thought because they had to pick the same second and fourth and third that you gave up. If you valued a DN or wanted a all-pro caliber guy, because if it was Myles Garrett, they would have gave up the house for him. Yeah. Right? And I'm not saying Trey Hendrickson is Myles Garrett, but what I'm saying is he has more sacks than Myles Garrett does in the last 2 to 3 years. You can't argue with production.
Nah, production wins every time.
He was number 2 last year in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was a first-team All-Pro last year. The year prior to that, he had 17.5 sacks. 2 straight 17.5 sack seasons. And he plays the run. And think about this, Glenn. He had 17.5 sacks last year on a Cincinnati team that was sorry. So that means they were down all game. Yeah. Right? So teams were supposed to be running the football. Right? When you're losing all games, teams start to run the football. Yeah. And he still produced 17.5 sacks.
He definitely did.
Like, that's astounding on that kind of team. Typically, you're on a team where you're winning and you can headhunt, right? But he was on a losing team and still had 17.5.
It's an update on that. Brown is asking for first.
That's why the Browns will not get anybody. That's why he's still out there, because nobody's gonna give him a first round for a 30-year-old.
Nobody's giving a first round for a 30-year-old. George says this while he's out there. George says 29. He would take Nick Imara from South Carolina at safety.
He's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be there.
He's talking about the big boy that ran 4.3 and did all that. Like, he's gonna be gone. You know how the draft works out. There's always those teams that get enamored by height, weight, speed, and they overdraft. Yeah. They overdraft. Somebody's going, and then the rumor is a lot of teams are interested in him as a linebacker. So now there's position versatility there, right? There's an added benefit to his game, so to speak. Yeah. So he's garnering a lot of eyes, and a lot of people going to jump at that.
2 things. Here we go. Sherman says this. Said we're about 4 players from making the Super Bowl, 3 on defense and 1 on offense. I think we acquired everybody we needed on offense. Take that back. We need that breakaway running back on offense. I give you that. We need that, Sherman. We give you that breakaway.
You need that young boy from Hopewell, Virginia. Hopefully.
You know what my pick. I'm going to try to stay away from that tonight. I was trying to stay away. I don't want nobody to say I'm at home because I seen a young man play and he ran all over us in high school. But that would be the ideal.
Come on, man. He plays well. He has pedigree. He played on the biggest stage. National champion. That's a lot of plays to get them there too.
That's the one offensive player they need. James says this, when it comes to edge, we just hope somebody falls to us in the draft. That is definitely key, James. We hope that play out. Hoping at 29 that somebody does fall to us in the draft. Man, hey Mo, man, great show, man.
I appreciate it, man. It was fun talking. It was fun talking about the additions, man. I've been keeping track, been trying to, make sure I did my research and whatnot, and sound knowledgeable about it. But Adam Peters is putting together a formidable team, right? And people have to understand they were successful last year, so a lot of things didn't need to change. You don't go fixing things that ain't broken.
Nah, but this is NFL, and some things got to change because that's what it is. Some things
got to change, but you don't go whole sweeping changes cannot be the thing.
I think this team kept the foundation right now. I think they kept the core of what they were and who they were, especially on the offense side of the ball. Defense side of the ball, we knew tackles would plug and play because of injuries. Second, I think the secondary got a little bit better today. So it
What I
is.
love about it, is the contracts are not like crazy. It's still, once again, Adam went back to the prove it again deal, right? So a lot of guys are proving it again for the second year to retain their services. So that's gonna keep people hungry.
It does. I remember. I got to talk a little bit of wrestling here. It wouldn't be
All burgundy and gold
all
segment
burgundy gold
without a little
everything.
bit
We
of
talk about wrestling,
WWE.
right? And where we have a little bit of WWE reference. Y'all remember when XFL first came out, right? And the very first incarnation of XFL, and Vince was paying players the way they performed, right? The way they performed. Them dudes was knocking heads off, right? Because it was getting paid to perform, and that's what it is. Contracts should be given based on how you play for that year, that 1 year deal, that excitement, that energy. Can you perform and make it? Some guys get lackadaisical and just want to collect checks when you give them multi-million-dollar deals and money up front, right? We've seen that. We've seen guys get paper and disappear, right? and don't show up, right? So again, and so the 1 year deals for this team has worked proven last year. I think the 1 year deals will help again this year to make people hungry in this team, this organization, this coaching staff will make guys go get it. It ain't gonna give it to you. Go get it. They got money. Now you gotta go get it. Go earn it. Go earn it.
Go earn it.
Go earn it. Hey, Mo, take us out of here, man.
Man, thank you guys for listening to us tonight, man. You guys have been listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything powered by the Urban Sports Team and Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM in Hopewell, Virginia. We are All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Please subscribe to our podcast at Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Just search All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Also, tweet us at ABG_everything and hit us up on IG and TikTok at ABG_everything. Make sure y'all subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Everything YouTube channel and make sure you like this video. Tell a friend to tell a friend to our people that are out here commenting in the chat for us, please. And we're gonna sign off with you've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold Everything powered by us at the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 Hopewell, Virginia, 1340 AM Hopewell, Virginia. This is All Burgundy and Gold. Deuces.
See you later. Peace.